We're live from New Delhi, watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Rescue efforts underway across storm-hit United Arab Emirates and Oman. Government says weather fluctuations are over. At least 20 people dead in Oman, while one death reported from UAE. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel will make its own decisions on responding to Iran as Western countries call for restraint. Jordan says Israeli retaliation would risk a wider regional war. US President calls for steep hike to tariffs on China's steel and aluminium, however, and says there could be no trade war with China and that tariffs won't hurt ties with his counterpart. And polling booths set up, security bolstered as high octane. India's general election set to begin on Friday. Election Commission of India to issue notification for the fourth phase today. Well, now let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. Well, India is set to vote in the world's largest general election, setting the stage for a mammoth exercise in democracy, with nearly 1 billion people eligible to head to the polls across just over 6 weeks. Polling for the first phase will take place on Friday, that is 19th of April. Voting stations have been set up with training given to officials to ensure a seamless voting experience. Security personnel have also been stationed in all locations for foolproof safety. The 7-phase elections conclude on June 1st, while the counting of the votes will take place on the 4th of June. In all, 2 Lok Sabha constituencies in the northeastern state of Manipur are among the 102 parliamentary constituencies across 21 states where polling will take place on Friday. To ensure public safety and the conduct of free and fair elections, especially at vulnerable and critical polling stations, security personnel conducted a flag march in the state. 3 layers of security involving the army, CRPF and state police have been established to secure all the peripheral areas. Well, preparations are also in place to ensure smooth polling in all 2 Lok Sabha constituencies of Arunachal Pradesh. In a remarkable incident, polling personnel were seen braving harsh terrain to reach a polling station at the Ramgong Assembly constituency in northeastern state of Arunachal Pradesh. Also, 5 seats in the Upper Assam region is going to polls on the 19th of April. That's tomorrow, and on the last day of campaign. Political parties used their full might to woo the voters. Assam is going to witness a tough battle between the BJP and the Congress. Well, being the northernmost state of India, Jammu and Kashmir is one of the diverse states represented by 5 seats in the Lok Sabha. Voting in Jammu and Kashmir will be conducted in 5 phases with counting of votes on the 4th of June. India's western state of Jaipur also has geared up for coming general elections. Made up of 8 assembly segments, Jaipur votes in phase 1 of the elections, and the votes will be counted and winners announced on the 4th of June 2024. And for more on the election updates, we have our DD India correspondents joining us, Vishal Baristo from Jaipur in Rajasthan and Debyendu Mondal from Assam. Okay, Vishal, my first question to you. Jaipur votes in the phase 1 of elections. How prepared is it for the big day?
Well, a very good morning to you, Lipakshi. Let me tell you that Rajasthan has 25 seats and 12 seats are going for voting in the first phase, which includes Jaipur and Jaipur Rural, Bharatpur and Alwar. So there are 12 seats. All preparations have been put in place, though we are still to get the details by the Election Commission as to how many security personnel have been deployed as far as the Central Armed Police Force is concerned. But it's a direct fight between Congress and BJP, though Congress did not score a single seat in the last elections. It was 24-1. One went in favor of the Rashtriya Loktantrik Party from Nagaur. But this time the Congress is trying very hard. And if we talk about Pan Rajasthan, then there are 5 to 7 seats where Congress is giving good fight to BJP, that is the Bharatiya Janata Party. But when we talk about the state, both phases, it is a direct contest between the Congress and BJP. Lipakshi?
All right. Debyendu, my second question to you. Last day of campaign yesterday, 5 seats go to polls tomorrow. You have been there in Assam for a while. How do you see the mood of voters there?
Well, good morning, Lipakshi. You know, the 5 seats in the Upper Assam region is going to polls in the first phase, which is on the 19th of April. So, of course, you know, the people here we have been talking to for the time that we have been here in this region. It seems that the people are happy with the fact of the schemes that the government had, both the central as well as the state government, which is in this case both the BJP governments, have been providing to the people here. But having said this, you know, there are 2 seats which will be fought fiercely between the BJP and the India Alliance, which includes the AJP, which is fighting against the Union Minister Sarbananda Sonowal, and the Congress's Tarun Gogoi fighting against Topon Gogoi of in the Jorhat regions. Of course, you know, these 2 seats in the first phase, where the 5 seats are going to polls in Assam, is going to be fiercely contested between both the parties. The people here, you know, as I said, the issues which includes the tea garden workers in the Jorhat as well as in the Dibrugarh region are crucial factors here, and we have been talking to many of the tea garden workers. We have spent almost a day with them here in Dibrugarh. So, you know, they seem to be, happy, but we got sort of a mixed reaction from these tea garden workers because, you know, there have been a lot of concerns which still remains unaddressed for the tea garden workers, which constitutes about 30% of the vote share here in Dibrugarh and Jorhat constituencies. Of course, they will play a very crucial role. Many have told us that, you know, despite them not receiving a lot of, benefits from the government, they would perhaps still choose the BJP because, they see that the BJP is perhaps having an intent for the development, for the cause of development of these tea garden workers. Yes, factory.
All right. Vishal, could you tell us now about the other preparations there, like schools and colleges status? Is there holiday being declared there?
Well, obviously, Lipakshi, whenever there is a voting day, then there is a public holiday so that everybody can exercise his right to franchise. So schools and colleges are on a holiday. And when we talk about the issues in Rajasthan, Rajasthan has just voted in the Bharatiya Janata Party in the assembly elections. So BJP is banking very strong on that wave, which is in the name of the Prime Minister, we call it a Modi wave. And it would be also a report card for the Bhajan Lal government, who is the Chief Minister in Rajasthan. It's been 100 days for his government in office. And when we talk about the contest, it has always been between Congress and BJP. But this time, even if Congress wins 1 seat, then it is going to be a positive report for the Congress party because it did not score a single seat. It has been doing very bad ever since Prime Minister Narendra Modi came to the helm of affairs. 2014, 2019 were not good for the Congress party in the state. They lost both the Lok Sabha elections, but this time they seem to be united as far as the dispute and the infighting goes, especially between the former Chief Minister of Rajasthan, Ashok Gehlot, and former Deputy Chief Minister of Rajasthan, Sachin Pilot. So they are posing a united force as far as the press is concerned, but it all boils down to the results. So the 4th of June would decide the fate of the Congress party, which has lost the assembly elections, and if they fail to deliver a single seat in the Lok Sabha elections, then also it's going to be a huge question mark on the leadership of Ashok Gehlot and certainly on Sachin Pilot, who is seen as the successor of Ashok Gehlot as far as Rajasthan politics is concerned. We also have Ashok Gehlot's son contesting from the Sirohi seat, Vaibhav Gehlot, and Ashok Gehlot is camping there for his son. Last time he lost very badly. When we talk about the Jodhpur seat, he lost. He means Vaibhav Gehlot, son of Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot, lost very badly to Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. So Congress has shifted him from Jodhpur to Sirohi.
All right, all set for tomorrow, the big day. Thank you so much for joining us, Debyendu and Vishal, and giving us that information from there. And 2024 is the year of democracy. During the past 75 years, the election process in India has evolved a lot. From ballot boxes to electronic voting machines, the Indian democracy keeps evolving. How the electorate has changed over the years, Did India takes a closer look.
The first phase of polling will see 102 seats with 1,658 candidates in the fray. There are 969 million voters on the electoral rolls for the 2024 general elections across all phases. There has been a 6.25% increase in the number of voters since 2019, which stood at 912 million. How has the electorate changed over the years? Let's take a look at the demographics of the electors. Share of voters in total population is the highest in 2024. Voter population ratio varies across states. Lowest gender imbalance in the electorate. Higher share of first-time voters. The share of voters in the total population will be the highest in 2024. Elections over the years from 1951 to 2024 have shown that the electors as a percentage of the total population is rising from less than 50% in 1951 to 67% in 2024. The difference in the demographic profile of states shows a disparity in the voter population ratio. There are large variations. How has this changed over time? The numbers have increased, but in different magnitude. Undivided Andhra Pradesh showed a maximum increase of 16.5 percentage points, followed by West Bengal and Karnataka. Bihar has seen the lowest increase at 2.1 percentage points, followed by Punjab 3.9% and Rajasthan with 4.5 percentage points. The 2024 elections will see the least gender imbalance in the electorate. It was 910 in 1971. It went lower to 902 in 1991-92. In the 2019 elections, the gender imbalance was at 926, while in this election, it's at 948. Finally, the share of first-time voters is higher than what it was in 2019, but it is not the highest in India. There are 1.9% first-time voters in India, which when translated into numbers is 18.2 million first-time voters. The highest number of first-time voters was in 2014 at 2.75%. The percentage of first-time voters is the highest in Jharkhand at 3%, followed by Rajasthan with 2.9% and Madhya Pradesh with 2.8%. The lowest first-time voters are in Kerala and Maharashtra with 1%. This election could see many news. How the Indian voters adapt to changing times and challenges will be tested as India decides in 2024. Anil Thomas's report for DD India.
And well, for more, DD India correspondent Rama Tyagi joins us from Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir. Well, good morning, Rama. In the first phase, voting will be held in Udhampur, which is traditionally considered a Rajput constituency. This is the first time that the constituency will be voting following the abrogation of Article 370 by the Modi government. Can you update us on the mood there?
all the preparation have been done here, and right now I am at Degree College in Udhampur, and you can see the polling parties are being dispatched. Election Commission is in a proactive role, and first they have identified where in previous polling what was the weaker places, and they have identified that, and after that they have done all the efforts. Home polling have been done at different places, and now polling parties are being dispatched. They are given adequate training, and they have adequate security is also there at sensitive polling booths and to hilly and difficult terrain. Yesterday polling parties have been dispatched, and the main focus was to increase the polling percentage and to provoke youth voter to come to the polling stations, and for that they have done different activities at school and colleges, different activities around their neighborhood with the help of religious leaders, with the help of different artists, with the help of different personalities. And as you have said that it is considered as the fight between two Singhs, but I want to say that there are 12 candidates. They are in the fray, but the main fight, traditionally the main fight is between BJP and Congress.
Yes.
But this time people are eyeing on the third entity also, because Ghulam Nabi Azad has launched his party, and that party is already in frame. So whether it will become the triangular fight or not.
Right. Thank you so much, Rama, for that information from there. And moving on, campaigning intensified for the second phase of Lok Sabha elections scheduled for April 26th, covering 89 parliamentary constituencies across 13 states. Senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah will hold rallies and road shows in Gujarat. BJP National President JP Nadda will be in Assam, where he will be holding rally in Kokrajhar. In order to garner support in party's favour, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi will be on Kerala visit, where he will be holding public gatherings. Meanwhile, the notification for the fourth phase of Lok Sabha elections will be issued today. 96 Lok Sabha seats spread over 9 states and a union territory will go to polls in this phase on the 13th of May. Simultaneously, notification will also be issued for single-phase assembly elections in Andhra Pradesh for 175 seats and the first phase of assembly polls in Odisha for 28 constituencies. The filing of nominations will end on Friday for the third phase of Lok Sabha polls. 94 parliamentary seats in 10 states and 2 union territories will go to polls in this phase on the 7th of May. And now let's take a look at other stories making news. In Jammu and Kashmir, the Bihar resident who was shot at by terrorists in Anantnag has succumbed to his injuries at the hospital. Person was identified as Raju Shah, a resident of Bihar. Area has been cordoned off and search operation is underway. Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha has condemned the attack, conveying his condolences to the family. The Ramlala temple in India's Ayodhya gets adorned in the colors of festive lights, adding to the joy and reverence of the occasion for the onlookers in the 9th and final day of Ram Navami. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Hezbollah launches missiles and drones at northern Israel, wounding 14 Israeli soldiers. Israeli Air Force fighter jets strike Hezbollah infrastructure in eastern Lebanon's Baalbek. G7 foreign ministers meeting kicks off on the island of Capri in Italy, with potential fresh sanctions against Iran on the table. And Croatian ruling party wins election without majority.
Will the Israel-Iran conflict blow up into a full-blown war in West Asia or the Middle East? Who killed the world's largest anaconda barely days after it was first discovered? Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST or 14:30 GMT on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching the India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on, heavy storm that lashed the United Arab Emirates has dumped over a year and a half's worth of rain on the desert city state of Dubai in the span of hours. At least 20 people have died in the deluge in neighboring country Oman. The government of UAE has announced the conclusion of the recent weather fluctuations in Dubai as downpour has stopped and weather conditions are steadily improving. The Ministry of Interior commended the efforts of field authorities to continue working tirelessly until a full recovery is achieved. The focus is on managing traffic flow and clearing rainwater to restore normal life across all public facilities. And shifting focus now as unrest in West Asia escalates after Iran's retaliatory attack on Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Wednesday that Israel will make its own decisions about how to defend itself. While Western countries have pleaded for restraint in responding to a volley of attacks from Iran. Iran attacked in retaliation for a suspected Israeli airstrike on its embassy compound in Damascus on 1st of April. Israel and its allies mostly shot down all missiles and drones, and there were no deaths, but Israel said it must retaliate to preserve the credibility of its deterrence. Iran says it views the matter as closed, but will retaliate again if Israel does.
I
am coming now from meetings with the foreign ministers of Great Britain and Germany. Last night I spoke to British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and soon I will also speak to other leaders. I thank our friends for their support in the defense of Israel, and I say this both support in words and support in actions. They also have all kinds of suggestions and advice. I appreciate it. But I also want to make it clear, we will make our own decisions, and the state of Israel will do everything necessary to defend itself.
Meanwhile, West is in action to defuse the escalation ongoing in West Asia. European Union leaders have decided on Wednesday to step up sanctions against Tehran. The European Union leaders met at a summit in Brussels. That is the first meeting of the EU's 27 national leaders since the attack on Saturday.
We condemn this attack launched by Iran against Israel. We have decided to put in place sanctions against Iran. This is a clear signal that we want to send. And we also want to do everything to protect the civilians. Each civilian life matters. We call on the release without any conditions of all hostages. We call on a ceasefire, an immediate ceasefire.
Whereas condemning Tehran's attack against Israel, Belgium has also shown its support in favor of imposing sanctions against Iran.
We clearly condemn these attacks. Unacceptable what has happened. We're also looking into sanctions. My position is that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard should be put on a sanction list, and I would be interested to see what the position is of other countries on that topic.
While German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has said that it was important that Israel does not respond with a massive attack of its own.
One thing is very clear, we have already taken many steps to sanction Iran. It will have to be discussed again and again what further steps are possible. It is also clear that these are processes that need to be closely monitored. There is already a list of sanctions imposed by these powers, and it is now a question of whether we can take a further step, a three-pronged approach, so to speak, although this is tied to legal procedures that the Commission's legal service is now dealing with.
Well, Jordan has also expressed their concern towards the conflict in the region. Jordan's Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi warns that Israeli retaliation against Iranian strikes could bring a real risk of dragging the whole region into a devastating conflict. Safadi said his country was lobbying a major powers against an escalation that would have far-reaching consequences for regional stability and security. Staunch U.S. ally Jordan, with the help of American air defenses and support from the UK and France, shot down most of the Iranian drones and missiles that were flying over the country towards Jerusalem and a wide range of targets in Israel. An Israel-Lebanon border also experienced a tension on Wednesday after Hezbollah launched missiles and drones at northern Israel, wounding 14 Israeli soldiers. Plumes of smoke drifted around the border. While in an counter-attack, Israeli fighter jets struck Hezbollah infrastructure north of Baalbek in eastern Lebanon amid concerns that increased exchanges of fire between Israel and Hezbollah could fuel further escalation. Well, with West Asia spiraling into possible threat of wider conflict, Western leaders are looking forward to impose sanctions on Iran to de-escalate the tensions. Our correspondent Sarah Coates tells us more on this.
Of course, of great international concern, given that some 1.5 million internally displaced Palestinians are sheltering there. And it's, of course, an area that Israel had previously declared as a safe zone. Now, we do understand that the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's actually given the OK for these operational plans. No date set yet as to when this would happen. We do know, of course, though, that given this Iranian threat that took place a few days ago and then the subsequent attack, that this potential incursion into Rafah has now been put on the back burner. But in terms of a wider escalation, this is certainly why we are seeing these foreign diplomats here today, the German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock and also the British Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron. They are really trying to bring tensions down, trying to prevent any further regional escalation, which of course could draw these key allies in. And this is why we're seeing the timing potentially of these sanctions that we are expecting to be put on Iran announced, because certainly if these sanctions are deemed great enough to strangle Iran's capabilities when it comes to missiles, when it comes to drones, then this could potentially be enough to pull Israel back and sort of limit its response. So really what we are looking at over the next few days is, of course, this Israeli response, and all of that will be dependent on where we go from there.
Well, G7 foreign ministers have commenced discussions on Capri Island in Italy, considering fresh sanctions against Iran. The agenda also includes encouraging Israel and Iran to reduce tension and enhancing assistance to Ukraine. DD India's correspondent Giles Gibson provides updates from Capri.
We've had helicopters buzzing overhead and security personnel patrolling the roof of that hotel just behind me where these G7 foreign ministers' talks are taking place. The Italian presidency is saying that there will be some discussions about what they describe as stability in the Indo-Pacific region, but really the situation in the Middle East is set to dominate the agenda of these talks. So the first session of the talks, just after the foreign ministers arrived on the island, were on the rising tensions between Iran and Israel, as well as the ongoing conflict in Gaza. And there is also this growing push, especially led by the US and the UK, for there to be sanctions introduced against Iran in response to their missile and drone strikes on Israeli territory over the course of the weekend. Then on Thursday, we will see the focus shifting to discussions around protecting global shipping routes in the Red Sea, and then moving on to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine with the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, as well as Ukraine's top diplomat Dmytro Kuleba, joining the G7 foreign ministers here on Capri, with Kuleba in particular expected to issue yet another call for help, for assistance in boosting Ukraine's air defences. We're also going to see some very in-depth technical discussions around how the G7 could potentially leverage $300 billion of frozen Russian assets in the West to help Ukraine in its war effort against Russia, with European nations pushing for only the profits from those assets to be used to be handed over to the Ukrainians. A final decision not expected to be taken here by the foreign ministers in Capri, but rather by the leaders of the G7, the presidents and prime ministers, when they come to Italy for their leaders summit, which is taking place in June. Really a packed agenda for the G7 foreign ministers in terms of those ongoing conflicts around the world, but we are also being told by the Italian Foreign Ministry that there will be discussions about wider issues such as engagement with the continent of Africa, as well as how the world can govern in a better way the growing technology of artificial intelligence. Giles Gibson on the island of Capri reporting for DD India.
While Croatia's ruling Croatian Democratic Union HDZ party won Wednesday's parliamentary election, but with fewer seats than before and without a majority. According to preliminary results from 94.4% of polling stations, the HDZ party won 60 seats in the 151-seat parliament. A coalition led by the opposition Social Democratic Party was set to come in second with 42 seats, while the right-wing Homeland Movement was set to take third place with 14. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Death toll rises in the deadliest airstrike by Russia in the Ukraine's Chernihiv in weeks. Indian expats in London have mixed reactions over world's biggest elections beginning in India from tomorrow. And in the US, over 1 million Indian workers face a visa backlog leading to bureaucratic delays.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Kuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Rescue efforts underway across storm-hit United Arab Emirates and Oman. Government says weather fluctuations are over. At least 20 people dead in Oman, while 1 death reported from UAE. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel will make its own decisions on responding to Iran as Western countries call for restraint. Jordan says Israeli retaliation would risk a wider regional war. US President calls for steep hike to tariffs on China steel and aluminium, however insists there would be no trade war with China and that tariffs won't hurt ties with his counterpart. Polling booths set up, security boosted as high-octane India's general election set to begin on Friday. Election Commission of India to issue notification for the 4th phase today. Well, as the start date for India's election approaches, more than 960 million people are registered to vote. Millions of potential voters are living overseas, but not all of them are able to travel back to make their voices heard. DD India correspondent Julia Chapman has been speaking to Indian expats in London about what the elections mean to them.
There are 13 million Indian citizens living abroad, but to cast their ballots in the upcoming general elections, they have to make the long journey home. Dhananjay Thackeray is a master's student at the London School of Economics. He plans to travel back to India because he says every vote counts.
Elections in India is not only important for Indians, it is also important for the rest of the world also. So that's why this is the first thing. Secondly, people in India, they think that voting is only for those who have interest in the politics, but it's not like that. Like I have seen that it's like we have day-to-day things which is dependent on the politics and political matters.
Thackeray is so passionate about voting, he's planning to help spread awareness about elections in rural communities of India. But not everyone is in a position to fly to India for the elections. While students may have the time to travel home to vote, expats in full-time work struggle to make that happen.
Unfortunately, like we do a job, right? And we have to handle clients, And you know, the Indian holidays and the UK holidays, they do not match up, right? And I do have a family here, and I have a kid who goes to school. So because of these constraints, unfortunately, you know, it's not possible to travel to India just for vote.
In India, postal voting is only an option for electoral workers and serving members of the army. There are more than 350,000 Indian citizens living in the UK, according to the latest available data. Most of them are working or studying here. Even without their votes, the Indian elections will be the world's largest democratic exercise. That's why some Indians abroad will go to great lengths to take part.
Wherever in the world I will be, but yes, I will do care about my country, and wherever I work, I will work for my country. So that's important for me to vote.
Flying to India also comes with a high price tag, but many registered voters say it's a price worth paying for democracy. Julia Chapman in London, reporting for DD India.
Moving on now, the Speaker of the US House's job is under threat, with hard-right Republicans saying they will move to oust Mike Johnson if he goes ahead with plans to put a foreign policy bill to the vote. He said he is not going to resign, and the move to push him out are absurd. DD India's correspondent Caroline Malone reports from Washington.
House Speaker Mike Johnson has a plan to get foreign aid passed in the lower chamber. He's put forward 5 bills on Ukraine, Israel, for Indo-Pacific allies, another from the Republican Party's desired foreign policy priorities, and the last on boosting security at the southern US border. That's already been highly controversial and part of the reason that they've been unable to pass foreign aid packages so far, despite President Joe Biden asking for it months ago. The issue has become so controversial, in fact, that Johnson's job is under threat. Members of the far-right Freedom House caucus say that he is surrendering the border and that it shows that he and allies care more about funding Ukraine than they do about securing their own borders. Well, voting on it could happen this week, at which point Johnson, like his predecessor Kevin McCarthy, is at risk of being voted out. Some representatives say that despite talks, it's become clear that a motion to vacate him will be brought if the Speaker plans proceed. Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey, 2 Republicans, are supporting a motion to remove Johnson from the speakership, and that could happen within 2 days of them bringing it to the floor. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
And the Netherlands handed over another 3 F-16 fighter jets to a training facility in Romania on Wednesday. Ukrainian pilots and ground staff are being taught to fly and maintain the planes in battle. The Netherlands has been one of the driving forces behind an international coalition to supply Ukraine with F-16s to strengthen its air defense against the Russian offensive. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the planes would strengthen Ukraine's air defenses and help its counter-offensive against Russian forces. While Russian President Vladimir Putin last month said the F-16s would not change the situation on the battlefield and would be shot down by Russian forces. And in the deadliest airstrike in weeks, 3 Russian missiles slammed into the center of Chernihiv, a city in northern Ukraine near the Russian border. The attack left at least 17 people dead and more than 12 others wounded. It also damaged several multi-story residential buildings, a hospital, an educational facility, and dozens of private cars. Ukraine is facing an acute shortage of ammunition, including air defense systems and missiles, with vital funding from the US blocked by Republicans in Congress for months and the EU failing to deliver munitions on time. Well, NATO's multinational exercise dubbed Sea Shield 24 is underway at the Romanian Black Sea coast. The exercise involves 16 allied and partner countries. The goal is to boost coordination for military naval operations and regain control over important sea lines of communication. The exercise aims to improve how these units work together effectively in both planning and execution, ultimately strengthening collective defense efforts. And Poland's President Andrzej Duda met former U.S. President Donald Trump in New York on Wednesday. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump hosted Duda at the Trump Tower. Trump said that the pair had 4 great years together and that they may have to do it again. Nationalist Duda, whose term in office expires in 2025, was one of Trump's preferred international partners during his presidency. Trump has in recent weeks met Hungarian President Viktor Orban and British Foreign Secretary David Cameron as U.S. inches closer to elections. And much debated abortion ban in Arizona failed to get the Republican support they needed against the Civil War era measure poised to become state law once again. Democrats in the Arizona House of Representatives tried repeatedly to repeal an 1864 ban on abortion on Wednesday. In 4 votes, the chamber deadlocked 30-30 on a procedural motion that would have allowed a repeal bill to come to the floor, with 1 Republican joining the 29 Democrats. Democratic leaders later told reporters they did not anticipate another vote on Wednesday, but would try again in future sessions. Opposing abortion is seen as a sacrosanct to many Republican voters, and crossing party lines on such a touchstone issue would be rare in highly partisan times. But repealing the 1864 law would still leave in place a law passed by Republicans in 2022 that bans abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy. And some Republicans have softened their hardline stance on abortion, mindful of the same polling that has emboldened Democrats. Also, Boeing's safety culture and manufacturing quality both at the center of a full-blown crisis following a January mid-air panel blowout faced scrutiny on Wednesday in 2 U.S. Senate hearings. Boeing has been grappling with a safety crisis after the door plug panel blew off an Alaska Airlines flight that took off from Portland in Oregon on January 5th. The plane maker has undergone a management shake-up. U.S. regulators have put curbs on its production and deliveries fell by half in March. Testimony at the U.S. Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations raised questions about missing records surrounding the panel, along with production concerns over 2 separate Boeing wide-body jets. Well, it's taking longer and longer for Indian nationals to get U.S. work visas. New analysis shows that more than 1 million Indians are stuck in a bureaucratic backlog due to low annual quotas. And as DD India's Tony Waterman explains, some face a decades-long wait for approval.
It is the ultimate sense of uncertainty, not knowing if or when your work visa will get approved. And that is the current reality for more than 1.2 million Indians, including dependents who are seeking to gain permanent residency in the United States through a green card. These are highly skilled individuals in the top 3 employment-based immigration categories. And according to an analysis by the National Federation for American Policy, this includes nearly 500,000 people with advanced degrees, with exceptional ability in the arts, sciences, and business, including researchers and multinational executives. For some green card categories, the wait time has gone up by 40% in the past 3 years. The problem can be traced back to 1990, when U.S. lawmakers set annual quotas on employment-based green cards. The limit is 140,000 per year, including dependents, and every country is entitled to just 7% of that quota, regardless of size or demand. So for India, with the world's largest population, the annual allotment is tiny, and the applications keep piling up. If nothing is changed, the Congressional Research Service says that by 2030, it will take 195 years to clear the backlog. Now, the issue was discussed when Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the White House last June. Both he and President Biden acknowledged how important this movement of people is and noted the need to expedite the process. For India, this is about getting its highly skilled workforce out into the world. And for the U.S., it's about attracting and retaining talent to maintain a competitive advantage. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
Well, enhancing accessibility and propelling towards a greener future, Permanent Representative of India to the UN, Ruchira Kamboj, highlighted India's progress in sustainable transport, ensuring safe and resilient last-mile delivery, a step towards the need to pursue policies and investments that are cleaner and more energy efficient.
We prepare to conduct the world's largest election in a few days. Reliable, resilient and sustainable transport infrastructure is enabling the Government of India in making sure that every voter has the opportunity to exercise his or her franchise. And this has been made possible through sustained and high-quality investment in road, air, rail and inland waterway transport systems, which besides facilitating last-mile delivery of public services to our people, has also attracted foreign direct investments in various sectors of the Indian economy.
Well, moving on, thousands of Georgians gathered in the center of Tbilisi on Wednesday evening to protest against a bill on foreign agents which critics see as authoritarian and Russian-inspired. Georgia's parliament approved the first reading of the bill that has provoked several days of protest. 83 out of 150 deputies voted in favor of the bill, while opposition MPs boycotted the vote. It must pass 2 more readings before becoming a law. The bill would require organizations receiving more than 20% of their funding from abroad to register as agents of foreign influence and has been compared by critics to a law that Russia has used extensively to crack down on dissent. And police in Australia's New South Wales state on Wednesday made their first arrest of a man suspected of rioting after an Assyrian bishop was stabbed at a Sydney church on Monday. The 19-year-old man was arrested and charged with riot, affray and damage of property during a public disorder. A male teenager has been arrested for the attack on Bishop Mar Murray Emmanuel. The arrest triggered the riot after an angry crowd demanded that the suspected attacker be handed over to them. Meanwhile, Bishop Emmanuel on Thursday said that he was recovering quickly and that he had forgiven his attacker. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Finance chiefs of US, South Korea, Japan hold trilateral meeting in wake of yen's slide to 34-year lows. After clinching a historic bronze medal at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, Indian team now sets its sight on the ultimate prize, gold. And we also tell you what to look out for in the UEFA Europa League quarter-final second legs.
Of the pole-bound southernmost Indian state of Tamil Nadu.
Voting is our responsibility.
This is a big fight between BJP and India alliance.
Will you vote?
Yeah, power of democracy. This is a huge.
BJP is trying her best, for the past 10 years under the flagship of Sri Narendra Modi Garu.
The 2024 Lok Sabha polls in Tamil Nadu are witnessing the battle royale between DMK, AIADMK and the BJP.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khurana and what weather updates now as floods engulfed large parts of central Russia. Russian villagers built homemade dike to save homes from flood. Russia's Urals region and northern Kazakhstan are grappling its worst flooding havoc as large amounts of ice and snow melting have swelled the river of Kazakhstan. Russia's Orenburg governor said the high-level flood relief work and cleanup efforts are underway in the region. Several embankments have been made to prevent waterlogging in Russia. And thousands of residents in Kisumu in Kirinyaga counties in Kenya were left stranded and homeless after heavy rain swept through their homes, destroying buildings and killing at least 13 due to the havoc. Authorities issued a warning last week for residents in low-lying areas to move to higher ground. The heavy rains are expected to continue across Kenya. Well, Indonesia shut a provincial airport and evacuated hundreds of people from the vicinity of the Ruang volcano after explosion of lava plumed the region. Officials declared highest alert on the situation on Thursday. More than 800 people were evacuated on Wednesday, with authorities widening the evacuation zone further. Officials have also flagged the risk of a tsunami if parts of the mountain collapse into the ocean below. And on to some business news now. U.S. President Joe Biden on Wednesday called for higher tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminium while addressing steel workers at the United Steelworkers headquarters in Pittsburgh. Biden said that China was cheating in its steel trade practices and that the U.S. is investigating the Chinese government's practices tied to the trade of steel and aluminium. Biden pledged that U.S. Steel would remain a totally American company.
I promise you, and I'm not going to let that happen again. Look, right now, my U.S. Trade Representative is investigating trade practices by the Chinese government regarding steel and aluminum. If that investigation confirms these anti-competitive trade practices, then I'm calling on her to consider tripling the tariff rates for both steel imports and aluminum imports from China.
Well, the U.S. government is reimposing sanctions against Venezuela's oil industry that it eased just 6 months ago. It comes after Caracas put restrictions on opposition candidates trying to run in this year's presidential election. DD India's correspondent Nick Harper reports from Washington on the latest developments.
In October last year, the Biden administration agreed to lift a number of sanctions against Venezuela. It meant some relief for the country's oil and gas industry, allowing Venezuela's state-run oil firm, PDVSA, to trade more freely with countries that are politically aligned with the United States. Venezuela's oil exports hit a 4-year high shortly after the deal was announced in October. However, that relief was tied to a guarantee from Nicolas Maduro's government that it would create an environment for free and fair presidential elections this summer. The US says Maduro has failed to do that and has in fact fallen short in several areas. They point to the government's decision to bar the main opposition candidate, Maria Corina Machado, from running in the election. The US says Maduro has disqualified other opposition parties and candidates and that his government continues its campaign of harassment against opposition politicians and activists. October's sanctions relief had a 6-month clause built into it, so the US could assess if Venezuela was upholding its end of the bargain and improving relations with the opposition. As that has not happened, the US says it will not renew the 6-month license. There are fears, though, that with the US reimposing these sanctions, it could lead to higher global oil prices or increase the number of Venezuelan migrants trying to enter the US illegally. Maduro, who's been in office for 11 years, is seeking a third term in office in the July 28th election. The US and many other Western countries refused to recognise his re-election in 2018, accusing the government of a rigged election. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Well, finance chiefs of the United States, South Korea and Japan on Wednesday acknowledged concerns regarding recent declines of the Korean won and the Japanese yen. Agreeing to work closely on forex market developments, the leaders held their first trilateral meeting in Washington, D.C. The rare warning from the three countries' finance chiefs came as receding expectations of a near-term U.S. interest rate cut pushed the yen to 34 years low. The development is keeping markets on alert on the chance of an intervention by Japan to prop up the currency. Meanwhile, the U.S. stocks fell in choppy trading on Wednesday as investors assessed the Federal Reserve's interest rate stance and a batch of soft earnings early in the financial reporting season. The S&P 500 lost 0.58%, while the Nasdaq Composite lost 1.15%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.12%. The four-session S&P 500 sell-off is the longest in just over 4 months, matching a 4-day run of declines ended on Jan 4th. The Fed's Beige Book survey of economic activity showed a slight expansion from late February through early April, and companies feared that progress in lowering inflation would stall. And in Asia, stocks crept higher in a mixed session on Thursday. The yen traded at 154.22 per dollar, close to a 3-decade low, and traders are eyeing a breach of 155 as a possible trigger for intervention. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan rose 0.4%, but regional moves were uneven, with gains in South Korea and Australia but falls elsewhere. Japan's Nikkei fell 0.4%, and with a drop of 4.3% so far this week is eyeing its largest weekly loss since December 2022. Well, you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. Bayer Leverkusen have been preparing ahead of the Europa League quarter-final second leg against West Ham on Friday. The freshly crowned German champions will travel to London for Thursday night's clash full of confidence following their 5-0 thrashing of Wolfsburg at the weekend. The win secured their first ever Bundesliga title and ended Bayern Munich's 11-year reign. Xabi Alonso's side will also take a 2-goal advantage into the return leg, having beaten the Hammers 2-0 on home soil. Leverkusen are currently on a 43-match unbeaten run across all competitions and have extended the longest unbeaten streak in a single Bundesliga season to 29 matches. And former steeplechase world champion Nora Girotto faces a doping case hearing in June, just 5 weeks before the Paris Olympics open. The Court of Arbitration for Sport said it will hear an appeal by World Athletics on June 17th. The appeal will be against a ruling last year that cleared the 2022 world champion of suspected blood doping. Girotto became an African champion while representing Kenya and won on the top-tier Diamond League circuit in 2021. An urgent CAS verdict is likely before the women's steeplechase is raced at the Paris Olympics on August 6th to 8th at Stade de France. Well, with just 100 days remaining until the start of their journey at the Paris Olympics, the Indian men's hockey team is poised for an exhilarating quest. After clinching a historic bronze medal at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, Indian team now sets its sight on the ultimate prize of gold. The Indian men's hockey team will begin their campaign on 27th of July against New Zealand. They will play their last group stage game against the mighty Australians on the 2nd of August. And with the focus here in India remains on the world's largest election mobilization of man and material, Election Commission of India has urged the citizens to join in celebrating Chunav Ka Parv, or the festival of elections, where every vote counts.
I would like to appeal to the voters that elections belong to you. We are handing over the baton to you. Please come and vote. हमें विश्वास है कि यूथ न सिर्फ वोट करेंगे बल्कि हमारे एम्बेसडर्स भी बनेंगे.
The entire team in the ECI is ready to ink the voters. Please join us.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.